Hi, this is Joe Banye for FastPitchPower.com, and this is part 2 of my series, Muscles and Exercises You Can't Pitch Without. In part 1, I demonstrated and explained how hip extension and the muscles involved contribute to an efficient and explosive push away from the rubber or early phase of the windmill softball pitch. I also explained how exhausting full hip extension sets a pitcher up to execute skills and mechanics throughout the remainder of the delivery. In today's post, I'm going to explain in more detail the role of the core musculature in maintaining optimal dynamic posture throughout the flight phase in the delivery. Optimal dynamic posture, as the softball community knows it, or as Phil and Carly will explain, is referred to as a vertically stacked position or a centered alignment of the head above the shoulders over the lower trunk, one not progressing forward of another. In the fitness community, we know this as an optimally centrated position of the trunk, and is a position that we can reinforce and improve in a variety of strength training exercises. I'm also going to expand on what I believe a proper core exercise should facilitate and reinforce, and hopefully by the end of the video I don't even have to explain myself as to why I don't use any sit-ups or crunches or typically any ab exercise that you see in a commercial gym. If you're following along with the softball mechanics and the strength training instruction, you'll see how they complement one another, and how a sit-up or a crunch that doesn't complement or reinforce any of the softball specific mechanics that I talk about that are talked about more in more detail in Carly and Phil's posts. I'm going to start in this video on one knee. I'm going to refer to this position as a half-kneeling drive-through position. I'm mid-flight in the drive-through phase. Just take my lower legs out of the equation. I'm beginning to exhaust hip extension. My glutes are fully engaged. I can engage my abs in this position, and now I can begin to challenge and examine the cooperation of my lower body and my upper body. In the first post, I define the core temporarily as the teamwork between the hip muscles and the abdominal muscles. In the second part of this series, we are recruiting 2 new members to the core, and those members are the muscles that support shoulder posture and shoulder position, and fourth, the muscles that support head and neck posture. So core stability or core strength is demonstrated by the muscular teamwork or optimal coordination between the head and neck, shoulders, abdominal region or lower back, and pelvis. All 4 of those areas, and one will affect the other, and the hips can affect the neck, and the neck can affect the hip if you've bought into this idea of muscular teamwork. They have to be working together, not only for optimal skill development, but exercise execution and demonstration of core capacity. So in this position, if this is my modified half-kneeling drive-through, I can demonstrate one common flaw that Carly and Phil have taught me that's common in young pitchers, and that's the inability to remain vertically stacked or separate their upper body from their lower body, which is traveling linearly and exploding in a straight line towards home plate. But instead, young pitchers will remain forward with their chin pulled forward like it's being pulled by a string, or their shoulders forward, grimacing through the neck musculature, trying to actually probably gain some stability that they don't have below it. And we don't just focus these mechanics into core exercises, but we can focus as I'll talk in the future, we can reinforce these mechanics as fitness professionals and strength coaches into total body exercises, upper body exercises, and lower body exercises. And this is really a critical skill capacity for softball players, and so you should be able to communicate it as such and get on the same page with your softball athletes. Now that we've enhanced our definition of the core, bringing aboard the muscles of the upper body and neck, it's time to define what I believe is an optimal core exercise, or what I feel a core exercise should facilitate and reinforce. And simply, you should be able to challenge and ultimately reinforce as much of that linkage between the head and the hips as possible, as often as possible. You should start in positions in which it's not so much of a challenge, however, you can still cue it, and then you should work into positions that challenge that linkage substantially, and ultimately work into positions that are specific to softball pitching. And that's exactly what we're going to do today. We're going to start on our back in an exercise that engages the abdominals, but also begins to allow the athlete to focus on head and shoulder position. We're going to work into a front plank, which now incorporates more, integrates the position of the pelvis and glutes, integration of the glute musculature into the core. And then finally, we're going to finish back into this half-kneeling drive-through position, challenging the stability of that, or the integrity of that position in the muscular teamwork between the lower trunk, upper body, and head against the physio ball in an exercise that I call the wall ball push, which I really think you're going to like. The first exercise I'm going to demonstrate is a variation of the dead bug crush progression that I used in part one with the foam roller, except now I'm going to be using a physio ball. I start on my back, okay, but even though I'm on my back, I'm still able to cue and focus on the position of my shoulders and also my neck. Okay, so I'm working on keeping my shoulder blades packed down and back, and also my chin tucked into my neck in that nice packed position. If I was vertical on one knee or standing, I'd be in a nice vertically stacked position. Now from here, once I've engaged the shoulders, the neck muscles, I'm going to push into the physio ball, try to crush the physio ball between my legs and my hands, and from here begin to reach one limb off of the ball, trying to crush the ball regardless of which limb I'm reaching. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind that your clients will feel that exercise as much as any crunch or popular exercise they've enjoyed for years. So if you're a fitness professional or even a softball dad or coach who wants to improve their core strength without hurting their lower back, okay, try that exercise out. It's simple. As soon as you engage the ball, you feel your abs light up. And as I said, if you're coaching a softball athlete, a pitcher specifically, we can work on the position or integrate the position of our head and shoulders into the core exercise in that basic progression. The next exercise is more difficult. It's a front plank on the physio ball. So now, not only do we have to focus on our neck, the position of our neck, the position of our shoulders against gravity, but we're also going to have to link in our lower trunk via the teamwork between our glutes and abs. Okay. You start by making a fist and interlocking your fingers. Throughout this exercise, you're going to be pushing down on the ball. Okay? So pushing your arms away from your body. Okay? Engaging the ball, trying to crush the ball against the ground. Okay? You don't want to let yourself sink and let your neck fall forward, you want to actively push your hands away and pull your chin back into a packed neck position. And below that, engaging the abdominals and engaging the glutes. Engaging the glutes tends to be the hardest thing to focus on in this exercise. In this position, interlock your fingers, make a fist, crush the ball, extend your legs straight, your glutes should be on, your abs should be on, pull your chin into a packed neck position and hold. If it doesn't look like I was shaking on video, I can assure you I am. It's a difficult exercise, and it's really an upgrade to old-fashioned planks that people tend to. You can hold those for a minute or more, and they become less valuable the easier they get. So challenge it with the physio ball, and challenge it with those softball-specific mechanics or linkage between the head, the upper body, and the lower trunk. Now I've brought the ball to the wall. And in this exercise, we're going to get in a very specific softball pitching position, challenging the linkage between the head and the hips, really, and everything involved being the core. We've worked from a position on our backs on the floor in the dead bug exercise to the plank position, which integrated our glutes and the teamwork between our glutes and abs, which we didn't get to challenge in the dead bug. Now we're in a very pitching specific position in a very difficult exercise, and a very versatile exercise regardless of what your athletes really need to work on. And I'll explain to you why that is after I demonstrate. In my half kneeling drive-through position, I start actually in the hip flexor stretch that I demonstrated in part 1. So if you're not familiar with the skills involved in getting an authentic stretch in the front of the hip, okay, go back in part 1 and review those videos. Long story short, get on one knee, back knees at 90, front knees at 90, dig your back toes into the ground. Once you're in this position, get the ball against the wall. From here, you have no elbows, all right? You can't bend your elbows. You're going to drive through the back leg, trying to drive the ball through the wall. Okay? It might not look like much, but you have to try this exercise. And I relax. Okay? Get arms straight, dig your back toes in. You're keeping your neck packed, your chin back. Keep your abs engaged. Your abs, if your neck is in a good position, you won't even have to worry about how, reminding your athletes to keep their abs engaged, because reflexively against the ball, they will have to turn on. That's a great part about this exercise. Okay. However, if your athlete is weak, this is what will happen. Okay. They'll lose energy through their lower back, and their head will travel forward. Okay. The two pitching-specific mechanical faults that you'll see, during their pitching lessons: heads forward, lower back is extending a little too much, placing stress on the neck, for anterior shoulder, and low back. 3 areas that are common injury sites for a softball pitcher. But regardless of injury prevention, it's also leading them to have loss of technical acquisition and mechanical inconsistency. This exercise can be used regardless if you have a tight athlete who needs flexibility, especially in the anterior hip, or an athlete who needs multi-segmental stability. So kind of like an athlete who doesn't need to really work on flexibility as much. They just need to kind of strengthen everything and learn how to generate tension. An athlete who needs length through the front of their hip will feel a stretch in that hip flexor area, okay, through the linkage of their core, their abdominals and their glutes. And obviously, you can't execute the exercise without using your glutes, your abs, your shoulder stability muscles, and your neck postural muscles to maintain the position. You'll break down, head will fall forward, lower back will extend. So it's a good strengthening exercise or activation exercise, and a good flexibility exercise as well. And most importantly, challenging your athletes in a very softball-specific pitching position.